Alright, yeah! Thank God for fantasy football. I'm Buster Brown, and the show is called Redemption Rehab. Today, we're taking a look at those impact players to pick up on your waiver wire. So buckle up, get out your popcorn, and let's head over to the chalkboard
and check out the facts.
Okay, here we are taking a look at the players that are going to impact fantasy football on the waiver wire heading into week 4 of the NFL season, starting with this guy, running back Trey Benson of the Arizona Cardinals. With the injury to James Conner, this is the next man up. Last week, Trey Benson had 10 carries for 42 yards and 3 receptions, 15 yards on 4 targets. Told you James Conner, he's out for the season. Good luck, James. But, the next man up's Trey Benson. He's going to have a big year. You're going to spend a bunch of money on him. Should have listened to us last week or the week before when we said go out and get this guy. That's why you hit that subscribe button. Who else do we like? How about this guy? How about wide receiver Trey Tucker of the Las Vegas Raiders? This week he plays the Chicago Bears. He's available in most leagues. Last week he went out and had 8 catches for 145 yards and 3 touchdowns on 9 targets. Look, this kid's a plug-in-and-play guy. He plays for the Raiders. He's got a good matchup against Chicago Bears at home. You got to go get him, put him in your lineup. Who else do we like? I'll tell you what, we love Alec Manor of Tennessee. He's another rookie. We talked about him in our NFL Draft preview shows. When you get a chance, you got to check those shows out. Last week, Alec Manor had 5 catches for 66 yards and a touchdown on 6 targets. When these rookies come in the league, you're not sure who they are. You're not sure if they're going to do well. Well, I tell you what, we put out shows called NFL Draft Preview Shows. You can go look at any of these affiliates behind me and at Fantasy Football Redemption Rehab and check those shows out whenever you get a chance. Who else do we like? How about this guy? Running back Tajay Spears of the Tennessee Titans. He's been on IR for the first 4 weeks of the season, so he's not available again this week, but he's going to come back in week 5. We also like all 3 running backs in the Washington Commander backfield. It's a committee. The guy you want is Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. He had 8 carries last week for 1 touchdown with 1 reception. But the other 2 guys we really like and you need to put on your bench is Chris Rodriguez. Last week, he had 11 carries for 39 yards. And Jeremy McNichols. He ran the ball 4 times. He had 78 yards and a touchdown with a 60-yard run in there. I'll tell you what, that Washington Commanders backfield's crowded, but as the season goes on, someone's going to step up. And if you're in need, I'd be putting one of those guys on my bench. Who else do we like at running back? How about this guy? Ollie Gordon of Miami. Last week, he was 9 carries for 38 yards and a touchdown. He's another rookie we talked about in our NFL Draft preview show. Who else do we like? How about this running back, Kenneth Gainwell of the Pittsburgh Steelers? He's a backup, but last week he had 4 carries for 16 yards and a touchdown with 1 reception. And I'll tell you what, if you've got Kyren Williams of the Los Angeles Rams, you better have his handcuff, Blake Corum. Blake Corum last week had 8 carries for 53 yards for the Los Angeles Rams. Hey, you need some more wide receiver help? I'll tell you what, we got some guys for you. How about this guy? Tyquan Thornton of the Kansas City Chiefs. Last week, he was 5 for 71 yards with another touchdown. With the injury to Xavier Worthy, this guy's still getting some playing time. Xavier Worthy's going to come back. Rashid Rice is going to come back. But until they both do, Tyquan Thornton's a guy that's going to do well. We've been talking about him for the last couple weeks. Hit that subscribe button. I'll tell you what, we really like this guy we've been talking about for the last couple weeks. How about rookie Torrey Holton of the Seattle Seahawks? He's only owned in 5% of fantasy football leagues. We mentioned him the last couple weeks. He's another rookie we talked about in our NFL Draft preview show. When you get a chance, check those out. Who else do we like? How about this guy at wide receiver? Luther Burden, another rookie for the Chicago Bears. Last week, he had 3 catches for 101 yards and a touchdown. We also like, because of injuries to CeeDee Lamb, How about Jalen Tolbert for the Dallas Cowboys? Somebody's got to pick up the slack. George Pickens, maybe Jake Ferguson at tight end will pick up some of the slack, but it looks like CeeDee Lamb's going to be out for a while. I think Jalen Tolbert's the guy you want to fill that void. I'll tell you what, you need yourself a tight end. Let's check out some of these guys. How about veteran Hunter Henry for the New England Patriots? Last week he had 8 catches for 90 yards and 2 touchdowns on 11 targets. You got to like the New England running backs and tight ends. Drake May threw 20 passes to tight ends and running backs out of 28 passes he threw last week. So on New England, we like the tight ends, starting with Hunter Henry. Who else do we like? Well, we talked about these guys last week. We told you to go out and get yourself Chig Okonkwo of the Tennessee Titans. He had 5 catches for 66 yards on 6 targets. He's only owned in 25% of fantasy football leagues. We also told you to go out and get yourself some Noah Fant of the Cincinnati Bengals. He also had 5 catches for 26 yards on 5 targets, and he's only owned in 10% of leagues. And we told you last week about Brenton Strange down there in Jacksonville. He also had 5 catches for 61 yards on 7 targets, and he's only owned in 25% of fantasy football leagues. These are guys you could put in your lineup next week and score some points. We also want to remind you that Isaiah Likely's coming back for the Baltimore Ravens, and he's someone you want to put on your bench also. Hey, do you need yourself a quarterback? Well, how about these guys? Jackson Dart starting for the New York Giants this week. We like him. We also like Sam Darnold of the Seattle Seahawks. Last week, he was 14 of 18 for 218 yards and 2 touchdowns. And we really like this week, especially in daily fantasy football leagues, Geno Smith of the Las Vegas Raiders. Last week, he was 19 of 29 for 289 yards and 3 TDs, and they play the Chicago Bears. I tell you what, that's a good matchup. I really like Geno Smith this week. Hey, do you need yourself a kicker? How about the kicker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Last week he had a field goal block for a touchdown, but he connected on the other 5. And his long for the day was 55 yards. Chase McLaughlin of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I'll tell you what, you need yourself a good defense? How about the Washington Commanders? They're playing the Atlanta Falcons, who didn't score any points against the Carolina Panthers. And we really like the Detroit Lions against the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland's offense is struggling. Detroit's defense is decent. I like those guys. And I tell you what, man, that's it for the weekly waiver wire report heading into week 4 of the NFL season. I'm Buster Brown. The show is called Redemption Rehab. Good luck.